If you're tired jumping from tutorial to tutorial and from how to without actually understanding anything, or if you're tired of watching 3 hour long videos explaining very simple concepts, then this series that I'm starting is just for you. I'm going to explain how n8n works and what it is, as if I was trying to explain it to a 10-year-old. If I was an elementary school teacher trying to teach n8n to 10-year-olds, this is exactly how I would do it. So let's just jump right into it, and you're gonna see it's super easy, nothing to be afraid of, and definitely there is no need for any software development or coding experience. So let's go. Okay, first things first, let me explain exactly what n8n is without any of the fluff, any of the unnecessary explanations and introductions. All n8n is a tool to get data, and let's say that these are data. So it gets data from one place, from place A to place B. So really, that's it. Thanks for watching. Okay, I'm kidding. But really, all n8n is a no-code tool to get data from place A to place B. The thing is, this is not a very useful operation. So sometimes it is. Sometimes you want to get your data from, let's say, an Excel sheet or a Google sheet inside your CRM. In this case, yeah, you're really getting the data from place A to place B. Some other times you want to get data from place A, get them to place B, and then get them to place C. So sometimes it's a little bit more complicated than that. And some other times you want to take data from point A, you want to change them, and I'm going to write change here. You want to change the data so when they go to point B, they are all modified and weird looking. So you're modifying the data, and then you get them to point C. So the data that goes to point C is already modified. For example, maybe you have a large email list in a large Google Sheet. So in this case, the first place would be a Google Sheet. And then you want to get the data and modify them. So maybe you want to remove duplicated email addresses, right? So then you would go to a place where it's called magical place where no duplicated mails exist. This would be like a temporary Narnia-like place. So you get them to Narnia, you remove the duplicates, and then you get them to your CRM. This is all n8n is. Seriously, no more than that. You don't need to understand anything else in order to start building automations. These are the basics. You don't need to code. You don't need to understand any of the other very, very complicated concepts. I'm serious, you don't. Now, obviously, just with this video, you cannot start building automations because you have no idea exactly how to use them. I just want you to focus on understanding at the very core level what n8n is. And though this is the basics, it's just a mechanism, a no-code mechanism, meaning to do all that, you need to write absolutely no code to get the data from point A to point B, C, D, whatever. So you get data from one place to another and then another. This is it. Okay, the next thing that we need to understand that other people make it unnecessarily complicated is the data flow. Like what happens and how exactly the data moves from one place to another. So n8n has like this, imagine it like a river, like a stream of water, and whatever falls in that stream just gets down the river. Easy as that. And the stream starts on our trigger node, and as you can see right now, we have only one item on our stream. Imagine it like this. Let's say we have this huge. Imagine that this is a river, okay? And in this river, you have like small rocks, okay? So this is a rock, and this is a rock, and this is a rock, okay? So now imagine that you have like an object falling inside the river, and it will go hit one rock, then it will move, hit the other rock, then it will move, hit the next rock, and then it will go out of the river. As you imagine, this is the input and this is the output, and those are the nodes, okay? With the exact same logic, if we add 3 items inside this flow, they will all hit the first one. Actually, no, let me make a clearer example. Let's say that we start with one item and we go down the river, it hits the rocks, and now this little item breaks into two items. Now, as those two items move down the river, they will both hit the second rock together at roughly the same time. And then again, they will go and they will hit the third rock, and then together they will exit the stream. This is what will happen. It's not like this first item is gonna go and the other one's just gonna wait here empty. The stream has to keep flowing and all the items are gonna go to the next nodes together, unless we specifically tell them not to. Let me show you how this is represented inside n8n. Now, like here, we have the river. Inside n8n, we don't have a visual representation of the river, but we have the first node and the last node. And this get the rows node is the individual rock. It's like this first rock that gets the first item, which is our input, and splits it into 4 little smaller rocks instead of 2. So we split it into 4 little rocks. And why 4? Because we have 4 items inside our data table. So after we run this node, and I'm going to click play to run it, we get 4 items, and our 4 items are inside the data stream. One thing I wanted to show you is the following. In this node, in this next node, I'm going to take the first name, and I'm going to show you on a little bit later how this node works, but now focus on what I'm saying. I'm going to take this name, and I'm going to add it. I'm going to add the current exact specific time down to the millisecond. And what happens after I do that? As you can see, it indeed produces the date and time for every single record. But if you notice, it's not the exact same for everything. The first one is 0.91 milliseconds, and the second one is 92, 92, 92. Everything else is just the same, but they have a small variance. And the reason for this is that those items are not run in the exact same time. Okay, they hit the rock, so they hit this rock, those items hit this rock, the next rock, one after the other. The unit of time that separates the first item with the second item, in this case, is very small. But imagine that this variation might be larger if you run more complicated nodes. But anyway, I wanted to illustrate that in this case, we are running this node one time for each item that we get as an input. If you didn't understand it, then just go back and rewatch this part of the video. It's something that we're gonna keep explaining again and again and again, and it's probably the most difficult concept for you to wrap the head around as you're building automation and as you're a complete beginner to it. If you're coming from a software engineer background, obviously this is gonna make instant sense to you. If you're someone who hasn't touched any kind of software before, and if you're new to all this, you might need to rewatch this video. So just pause it, go back, go back 4 minutes and 40 seconds, and just rewatch just this little part right here. Let's talk a little bit more about execution tricks. We said about the flow, but this only happens if you have one stream of water. Back to our river example, what happens if our river splits into different rivers down the road? So rivers go like this all the time. And in reality, you cannot have rivers looping back and going back up the mountain and down again, or at least I think so. All I'm trying to say is that, okay, this river analogy, maybe it's not ideal for what I'm trying to say. So let's go back to n8n, and for now, I will drop the river analogy. Okay, so what happens if you start connecting the lines like crazy? So what happens if from the first node, I get, So what happens if from the first node, I get to the second one again? So which one of those will execute first? And to test that, we will delete those, and we will add the wait node. So this node just waits a specified amount of seconds, minutes, hours, or days, a unit of time, and a specified amount, and it's basically blocking the execution right there and there. So if we execute it, you will see that we wait for 2 seconds, and then the execution continues. Okay, so if we duplicate that, what do you think is going to happen? Which is going to run first, the wait or wait one? And basically, actually, let's rename them to wait 1 and wait 2. As you can see, wait 1 runs first and wait 2 runs second. The nodes are running based on which one is higher. Okay, so the second one will run first now and then the first one. So all you need to do is reorder the nodes, and the one that's higher is gonna run first. But what happens if two nodes are on the exact same height? Like these two nodes are in the exact same height. In this case, the one that's on the left is gonna run first. So n8n just takes, I guess takes nodes from the top left side all the way to the bottom right side and runs them this way. So if I reorder them again and I put the weight 1 on the left side, it's gonna run this first and then the weight 2. Now, after both are finished, the workflow is truly finished. But as you can see, if I have another node here, and this is really gonna blow your mind, if I had yet another weight, look what's gonna happen. First, it's gonna try and finish the first branch of execution, the one that's on the top, and then it's gonna finish with the second. This is why the river analogy doesn't work, because it's like we're trying to empty the first river before starting to emptying the second river. So this is why the river analogy doesn't work in this point. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that you have, when you break your flow of execution into multiple parts, the workflow is going to have to wait for the first branch to finish, and then it's going to move on with the second branch. And this little example with the wait nodes illustrates that perfectly. First, we're waiting for the first node, for the node to finish, and for the node that's first in line to finish, and then we're waiting for the second one. Also, only the beginning node matters. So notice that right now the weight 2 is higher than weight 1, so it will run first. It doesn't matter that weight 1 is connected to another node that's a little bit higher even than the first one. So in this case, the weight 2 is going to run first, and when it finishes, then we're going to go to the second branch. So just something to remember so you're not getting confused. This is important because you see people mixing up their nodes and moving them up and down, thinking that it doesn't matter and it only matters if you want to create a YouTube thumbnail. Well, it matters. The way that you construct your workflow, it matters. Not in many cases, I'm going to be honest, there are very few cases that it's really going to matter, but it is, and this is how n8n works, so keep it in mind. It's best to learn those things in the beginning so you don't get extremely confused down the road. That's it for part 1. Thank you for watching. Please drop a like, a comment, and all the usual. It really helps me. I'm a new channel, so even the single comment that you're gonna leave, it really helps the algorithm because I am a new channel. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.